There we go.
Right. We've got some Yo-Yo Ma playing us in, which I'm going to pause before we violate any international copyright laws. We're back with Bar Association. Got a lot to catch up on. I know you guys have been missing us. I'm here with Guy Lore. Guy, you want to say hi to the people?
Well, good. Everyone.
Awesome. Guy's a bartender extraordinaire. And what are we drinking today, Guy?
I'm doing a little Belching Beaver peanut butter milk stout.
Right on. Where's Belching Beaver located at?
Belching Beaver is a Southern California company that is local. I was recently on a trip to San Diego, and I don't get to see it in bottles very often, but they had it at a store, and we picked up more than our fair.
Right on. Did you say peanut butter stout?
Yeah. Oh, it's
Oh, I've
delicious.
had that one. I like that one. I like that one. What did you say to people who don't like peanuts? Do they have anything else that's like a
As far as beer goes, peanut butter is a fairly novel addition to the flavor profile, but unfortunately, if you have a problem with peanuts, I think what type of beer you're drinking is maybe the least of your concerns. That's a serious issue.
yeah, I don't even know. What do you do? How do you survive? You just
EpiPen, EpiPen.
can you see me?
Yeah.
No, can't see. I can see you. Well, no. I was reading it. All right. All right, man. Well, so we're talking about bar etiquette today, and we've had a couple conversations about what to do at a bar, what not to do at a bar, how to approach people at a bar. You've been an artist for a long time, a singer of a band. What's the name of your band again?
I've been working in a couple groups recently. One is a metal outfit called Darwin's Theory.
Darwin's
Uh,
Theory. Right on.
and then I'm also starting to do some guitar and synth work for a group called
Say it one more time for the folks at home.
Like the Color Gray.
Sounds uplifting.
It actually is. It's fairly inspiring music. It's very thematic and bold. It's kind of like Muse meets Imagine Dragons is how I would describe it. It's not what I would normally go for, but they've got quite a bit of talent. I was very impressed.
Right on. Cool. Well, we're gonna have some links in the chat and on Twitter for the bands later on. So we'll be sending that out to people. Cool. So, in your experience as a singer behind the bar, what is if you're gonna tell people, give them a guide, step by step. Here's how to make the bartender love you. Coming up to the bar, ordering. What would you tell
Well, I would start with for however many are in your group, have that many drinks ready. Biggest thing off the bat when you walk up with four of your friends and you say, I'll have a what have you, and then turn around and what do you guys want, you've just wasted the entire group's time.
them? And the entire bar's time if it's busy.
Yes, everybody involved just got screwed because you didn't come up with a game plan ready to go. We're there to have so have your side of that equation ready to be played out.
Yeah. Well, it seems like a lot of people don't understand, and I see this a lot. The You're not the only people at the bar. So everybody who's there is kind of waiting on your order to get filled so their order can be filled too. And if you're mad about the line, maybe have your stuff ready so you can set a good example for the next people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Be a role model for your fellow bartenders.
What's your opinion about people ordering for each other if they've got like a group of 6, 8, 10 people?
You know, I think it's a good idea in theory and generally a good idea in practice. The issue usually comes on the back end, however, when someone is dissatisfied with an inaccurate order. Uh, I had that happen last night, actually. Had a guy come up and order four drinks for him and three friends. And the second I delivered them, the other friend turns around and says, no, he said those backwards. Damn it.
What did he say? What did he say? What did he want?
So we had 2 tequila tonics, 2 Grey Goose pineapple, and I delivered them to hear, no, it was supposed to be 2 Grey Goose tonic and 2 tequila pineapple. Like, well,
So yeah.
maybe you guys could have thrown that at me one at a time real quick to confirm that order, because he was not to be trusted.
Do you make them pay for all the drinks if they do that, or do you give them the redos for free?
Oh, I'm afraid that's something that most people would refuse to pay for.
Yeah.
If I could get away with charging them, I would, but I think they would laugh in my face if I tried to give them drinks they weren't going to have.
What are some other faux pas you see when people order at the bar? Well, actually, let's start before you even order. How do you get what's the best way to get a bartender's attention?
Making direct eye contact is a great way to start. Mm-hmm. And being polite, not rushing the person that is attempting to help you out and technically do you a favor. Make sure you're not being short. Good evening, guys. Hey, yeah, I'm ready. Whatever polite colloquialism you want to levy, I will listen to it. We also have a lot of to where Jeff decided to put hands at me and say, "Come on, vodka, clap, 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 let's go."
Wait, somebody's clapping at you?
Yes.
Yeah.
That right there made his vodka tonic take an absolute eternity.
I think it's safe to say that the best way to not be next at a bar is to be rude, because it's a line. Even though it goes like this, it's still a line. And we're kind of deciding who's next as we go, doing our best to give people an order to come in, right?
Oh, absolutely. But you can definitely find your way to a different part of the line based on your behavior and decisions.
It's a good thing for people to know. All right, so as a singer, what's the worst way to request a song?
To the front of the stage, and while the singer is speaking into the mic or starting a piece, shout out. Actually, the answer would be the same as the bar. Now that I think about it, don't interrupt. There's a show going on. Wait till the appropriate time to find your way.
Right on. Do you feel like people are having more of a? I feel like what I see is a lot less the sort of improvisational timing of conversation. When's a good time to bring something up? When's a good time to ask something? I feel like people don't necessarily. It's not a skill that you're taught. It's a skill that you learn over time, and it seems to be a forgotten skill in a lot of ways. Do you feel that same way, being from your experience anyway?
Well, I would very much. Man, last evening was just such an event time. I have a story for every question you're asking. We had a couple gentlemen in early on in the evening that were both current educators, longtime teachers, and we got onto that very topic of, it started off in relation to our current political climate, but it very transitioned into a lack of critical thinking skills, original thought, our tendency to regurgitate points of view, model habits after things that are self-serving. I mean, there's a little bit of hyper-individualism at play in our society right now that, it unfortunately is the case.
Well, it's one of those things where alcohol kind of reveals the person underneath. So if that's a particular sin of yours, I think it'll pop out at the bar.
Very true. Inhibitions go out the window.
Yeah. When you say hyper individualism, you mean the sense that you're more special than the other people around you, or the sense that what's
the tendency to seek out self-serving behavior, relationships, that the world, I think that's something of our generation. The world owes you something.
Mm-hmm.
That, we and people just a little bit older than us, from the time we enter school, are taught that there is this concept of an indebted life. You are going to have this. Everybody has this. Of course, you should have. It's not something that forces people to learn compassion, empathy, or having improvisational conversation.
It feels like the world being owed to you is a huge problem. Oh, I lost you there. Say that one more time because I lost you for a second.
That certain skills are valued over others, and unfortunately, a lot of the creative aspects are just not nurtured.
Yeah.
We don't seem to value them as much as making ourselves feel good through more arbitrary.
So in this sort of context, because we want to talk a lot about the bars at Third Space. It's, it's the place that's not your home. It's not your work. It's actually a place for community. It's a place for, interaction with people. It's a place to be rehumanized, especially in a sense when we're all very mediated with our technology. What do you feel is the responsibility of a bartender, of a host of that Third Space? And we could talk more about the responsibility of the patrons, but what do you feel like the responsibility is of the bar host, the bartender, the bouncers, the managers, whoever's on the floor in that situation?
Well, we are blessed with essentially facilitating a party. That is, when it comes down to it, brass tacks, we are there to foster a shindig that is open to the public, or in most cases, open to the public.
Yeah.
It's kind of a blessing and a curse, however, because people have different concepts of what a party should be and how to behave.
Yeah.
So, creating a safe, entertaining environment is our responsibility, but that is a very, very fluid responsibility because it changes with each individual.
How do you strike that balance as a musician? You want people to get engaged with the music and you want them to experience it, but you also don't want them endangering people or bothering other people or tearing up the furniture. So how's that work for you?
Well, thankfully, most venues have their own policies and staff to deal with those sorts of issues.
Yeah.
As much as I can walk out from behind the bar and become my own bouncer when I need to be, it's much more difficult to do a point of view.
So that's interesting that you bring up bouncers and security. What is the so if you're a bar patron, you generally don't interact with the bouncer unless you're in. The bartender kind of takes you along for the ride. It's not until critical mass, a turning point where you meet the bouncer. So what would you say to people when they have to interact with that bouncer? Because I like to ask this question because bartenders know the bouncers personally. We trust them. They're kind of our best friend because we know they're keeping us safe. But for you as a patron coming in, you don't know this guy until he shows up. He maybe takes your ID at the door. So what would you say to people about, or what would you think, maybe what's the most misunderstood thing about bouncers that people don't really ask?
I think they fill a role that's a bit dehumanized. You were actually touching on that point. They don't necessarily recognize that individual as someone there to help them. They see them there as, you are a hindrance to me enjoying my time. But keep in mind, this is that effort to create a safe, entertaining environment. And if this guy's interacting with you, it's kind of like being pulled over by a cop. You don't immediately roll your window down and be like, "What the fuck are you pulling me over for?" Oh, apologies, officer. How are you this afternoon? Good. What can I do for you? Is something wrong? And if so, how do we fix it without something terrible happening? Which, if you're encountering a bouncer, in a busy bar, things can go south pretty quick if you don't play your cards right. Uh, you know, understand that they're there as a friend essentially. They're
Yeah.
there to make your night more fun by potentially helping you control yourself.
Yeah. They're also, most of them are trained in Krav Maga or something too. So they're a friend, but they're also not somebody you want to throw a punch at.
Yeah, you don't want them to throw down on you.
No, not at all. Speaking of danger, we got a question from Amanda. Which is safer, bartending or playing metal?
Uh Playing metal, definitely.
Really?
Oh, exponentially.
Okay, why is that?
Uh Bartending has a built-in number of sharp objects that could very quickly become sharp,
Yeah.
things to trip over, bodies to run in. Uh, Particularly at our establishment at the Wellsbourne, we've got a very narrow space to work in.
Mm-hmm.
It's it's ballet. It is a miracle that we don't have more injuries than we do back there. I mean, I feel like 3 times a week we'll just get a cut on the finger, but what happens when somebody trips with a handful of glasses and has to brace themselves?
Right.
You know, things are very dangerous bartending.
So
Playing
let me just.
uh, it looks dangerous, but it is not.
So just for the folks that can't tell, guy, how tall are you, if you don't mind me asking?
I am 6'6".
6'6", which if there's European audiences watching, that translates in American to pretty fucking tall.
Yeah,
And you're obviously not a small guy, so moving around in a narrow space, especially bartending, is kind of athletic. There's a lot of shaking. There's a lot of like moving of your. You require some space to do it. So
yeah.
do you think that, I've been on two sides of the bar, obviously. You have too. Do you feel like something gets lost in translation in terms of how fast people are moving or what they're trying to do to get you what you need, as in terms of protecting their own, splitting difference between protecting their own safety and actually expediently providing you the service that you're asking for?
Yeah, I can say that that's something that since I returned recently to the Wellsbourne, I've been very cognizant of for myself. I feel like there there are times that the pace of service becomes so frantic that it does become a little riskier. I mean, it's like driving on a highway. Yes, you can 5 miles an hour, but if nobody else out there, it does slightly increase the risk of something unfortunate happening. Uh, I noticed that some of our compatriots that tend to get going a little too fast
Uh-huh.
and being as purposeful and mindful as they could be, which frankly, something I've always said in music lessons has been slow and is always better than fast and wrong. And just arbitrarily moving as quickly as possible without being as efficient as possible is, well, it's just worth it.
Right. A lot of ways, being a musician, music is more precise than language. You know,
Yeah.
so yeah. So you would say that honor the precision that the bartenders have. Steven says there's a lot of time from the shaker to the glass for you. So I don't know if he's making fun of the fact that maybe if you pour a drink, there's maybe a little extra, like 16th of an ounce, just based on how far it is from you to the actual shaker tin. But
Fair point. Fair
yeah,
point.
so look for Guy when you're. That's the thing. Look for Guy when you're at the bar, because he's going to be precise and he's going to give you a little bit more booze. Don't get mad because he's too tall. All right, man. So tell us more about playing metal. Like what actually got you into that? Where'd that come from?
Uh, that is a lifelong pursuit. I started playing music at a very young age. Was fortunate enough to get to focus on it as basically a full-time hobby outside of my schooling. And by the time I was in my mid-teens, I was able to get an accelerated college education and kind of work my way into the adult world through music and education. And metal, particularly, was a love of mine because of a word you just used, precision. It is. It's not only aesthetically pleasing to me; it's intellectually stimulating. It's one of those genres, much like jazz or, to a great extent, believe it or not, bluegrass. Uh, Incredibly complex patterns being played out
Right.
in the standard fare. It's metal is just classical music with percussion and distortion. That's really all it is.
So yeah, I was just playing some Yo-Yo Ma because I just dig it. But so in terms of classical music, jazz, I'm a huge fan of Miles Davis, huge fan of Coltrane. I feel like, especially jazz, bluegrass, a lot of the stuff you mentioned, there's a bit of a misunderstanding that you have to have a niche taste to get into it. And I think the same is true about metal. So if somebody wanted to really get into it or wanted to experience it, actually listen to it as give it a try, what would you say? Who should they start with?
Well, that honestly, that depends
Other
on
than your band.
what other. Maybe I'd say it could be advanced acquired fare, but
Yeah.
it really depends on what you enjoy listening to outside of that. Let's bring it back to bartending. You know, if all you drink are vodka martinis and you're looking to get into whiskey, it's probably best that you don't dive immediately into a super Amaro heavy Manhattan mix.
Right.
You know, you want something that is akin to what you're used to. Musically, you know, if you're really into hip hop, you might try metal that does a little bit of crossover. There's a lot of electronic metal bands that I'm pretty big on. I would highly recommend the Browning to anyone. The Browning. It is kind of like dancey metal. Feels almost like EDM at times.
Okay.
The evolution of Nine Inch Nails and your more classic industrial, you will see a big rise in very similar metal groups. It's all quite linear. You know, somebody does enjoy it, people will emulate it. So you can do a little research and figure out what metal group is most similar to what you're already listening to.
Right on. Right on. So taking it back to bartending, what's the gateway to what would you feel like is the most whiskey that you've tried? Like if you were going to say like, hey, you're new to whiskey, don't go for this, but if you love whiskey, definitely dive into this. What would you pin? A couple bottles.
Well, if you are open-minded and into bold ass shit,
yeah,
I have always had a very special place in my heart for Lagavulin 16 years. That's the whiskey drinker's whiskey. Hey,
you're correct. You win a certified Marvel No Prize. R.I.P. Stanley. That is the best. That's the answer to that question, bar none. Yeah, right there.
That's the answer to the question.
Can you see it? No. Oh, there we go. Boom. Right by Muhammad.
Good play, bud.
Yeah. Nice, man. I feel the exact same way. And then if you're new to it and you want to try something that's a little bit interesting, but you're moving from maybe being a gin drinker, being a tequila drinker, what would you say?
Well, to be quite honest, if they're not at all experienced in whiskeys, a sweeter bourbon probably the most accessible and approachable. Uh, a simple Maker's Mark or Bullet is a good choice to get somebody that is just n- new to the genre. But
Yeah.
uh, if you already know what you're doing, it's rye all the way. Rye all.
Yeah, something even like a Templeton rye, which is nice and smooth and doesn't have a lot of that spice, or yeah, Whistle Pig, which is on the pricier side, but if you're going to jump, you want to split that boundary between the sweetness of bourbon, that sort of honey oak flavor that because it's old, it's new barrels, but it's the same process as a
Right.
Scotch or it's a Highland especially. Yeah, right on, man, right on. Cool. All right. So back to the bartending world, and this is something interesting. So I've been some reason today I decided to get on Yelp. I don't know why. Um, I'm actually on the Wellsbourne Yelp. So we are talking about, and this is a I've seen there's a complaint about security, a complaint about a bouncer on this one. All right. So it says I've been coming here regularly. A few minutes before closing, and suddenly the bouncer started telling people it was 2 a.m. and to get out. What do you think?
Well,
Who's
in,
wrong in this situation?
in this state, like many states in our great union, the closing time for establishments serving 51% or more alcohol is
2 a.m.
2 a.m. So when we arrive upon that hour, it is our collectively agreed upon and well legislated uh, arrangement that you get the fuck out.
What is the so I feel like a lot of people too also there's a sense that the bartenders just want you out for kicks and giggles. And to be honest, some of us have been there for a very long time, so we would love to go home to our respective families or to our beds.
Yeah.
But outside of that, what are the so in terms of like the actual law in the state of California or most other states, because people regulate this stuff right here is regulated pretty strongly. What does 2 a.m. mean when we say closing time that maybe your average layman wouldn't understand?
Well, it doesn't just mean that we are trying to get out of the building ourselves, which of course we are.
Right.
Uh, we are saying that that is the time that you are required to stop drinking in public. We're saying this is now the party's over, and it's not for your purchases; it's for your.
Right.
And if you have been in the place anywhere near as long as the bartenders, it's usually not a bad idea to have a definitive set point. But yeah, it's game over. It's game over, man.
Yeah. I mean, if you have to have that last drink, if that last drink is the thing you need before you take off, maybe don't have it. Because I'd rather not take the tip from that and see you go home safely or see you not make a big mistake when you go home than actually get that drink poured. A lot of people don't know too, and this is for the nerds in the audience. A lot of bars have something called a conditional use permit. It's a CUP, and that's established by where they live. So it's not just their license. That means they have to stop serving at a certain time, no matter what.
Yep.
Drinks on the table, no alcohol in your mouth, no alcohol anywhere. So when and a lot of people, like a bouncer will take a drink out of your hand, and people will get offended. But to us, that's actually us looking out for you and looking out for the establishment, right?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, as I said, it is a predetermined and predicated condition of the business existing.
Yeah.
You don't have that permit if you can't guarantee those conditions are met. So it is what it is.
Yeah, it's funny. I think sometimes people don't understand like a party. If you look at like, let's say you've been married or you threw a bar mitzvah or something, those are really complex, complicated parties. Before you get to the party, there's a lot of planning and a lot of not fun stuff that goes into it, right? So bar is that every night, every single night.
Yeah,
Yeah. Every time we throw a party for you, we're making sure there's a lot of intricate little things that we have to do legally before we can make that happen. All right. Worst offenders of ordering protocol, being aggressive toward bouncers, or even being at a metal show as a singer and requesting songs or grabbing the mic or whatever. Who are your worst offenders?
Ooh.
If it hurts too much to talk about it, we can switch subjects.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember how far back do we want to go. Worst offender. Actually, I'll keep it fairly recent. Earlier this year, we had a young lady of questionable at best and more realistically quite dubious intent literally reach across our bar and grab a bottle and start pouring herself and her boyfriend shots and drinking from the bottle. Well, I watched. This happened at the Wellsbourne. I immediately stopped what I was doing. She ran to the bathroom. Her boyfriend didn't understand why I was kicking them out.
What was it a bottle of? Amanda's asking, what was it a bottle of?
It was a bottle of Fortaleza tequila, I believe.
Okay, so not well stuff.
Not cheap either. But
no.
That was the first time I've never had somebody actually get up on the bar, reach across, grab a bottle, and start pouring themselves shots.
Yeah, so just for the people at home, we've got to say it again. Who is allowed to touch the garnishes and the booze at a bar?
Your friend's neighborhood bartender and not you.
And who else is not able to touch it?
For God's sake, the person that decides they want an olive and just opens it up and helps themselves like a goddamn buffet. Not that person.
Right on. Nobody else touches it. Actually, bouncers, managers, most people don't go behind the bar except for the bartenders. It's kind of a sacred space. We want to do our thing back there. All right. Steven says in Cocoa Beach, which I'm assuming Florida Cocoa Beach, which is dear to my heart, singer from Molly Hatchet would jump on stage and grab the mic anytime a band covered one of his songs. Then he'd sing it. What do you
think? Dane, very, very cool for the audience.
Right.
If the band in question doesn't know it's coming, it's a similar situation. I mean, imagine if we had, Dale DeGroff hanging out on a busy Friday night and somebody ordered Cosmos and he just walked back and started making them. We would have no idea who the fuck Dale DeGroff is just by looking at it.
So I got a question. So in your opinion, celebrity does not move you out of the realm of the bar etiquette space?
I am not a fan of the entire institution of celebrity.
Right on.
And it certainly does not entitle you to the right to violate social norms that would otherwise exist.
Sure. I mean, I had a celebrity, I won't say his name, who kissed me on the cheek about 25 times while he was at the bar. So, whoa. Although Bill Murray making gin and tonics no matter what anyone ordered. Will you make an exception for that?
I guess so. I guess in this one instance.
Okay. That's fair. I think that's fair. Oh, man. All right. One last thing. If you had to tell somebody, if you had, guy just turned 21, gal just turned 21, they came to you and they said, hey, I'm going on a date. I'm taking someone to a bar. What do I do?
Drop about $150 on roofies and Molly. I'm joking.
Good God.
I'm joking.
Like, no, end the broadcast. No.
No. Always adhere to the wishes of your audience. Figure out what it is that your date is actually into. If you are taking out a 22-year-old dude that is super into rave music, it's probably not a great idea to go to an old man's cigar lounge. You might want to find something a little more upbeat. Vice versa, you've got a 50-year-old recently divorced woman. Maybe don't bring her to one of my metal shows ever, unless she's into metal music.
Or she's into bald guys. Yeah, my man. All right, brother. So it's been a pleasure as always. Where can we send people to see your stuff? Are you on Twitter? Are you on Instagram? Are you on Tumblr, LinkedIn?
I am personally on pretty much nothing. I live off the grid a little bit social media wise, but I do use them professionally. So, of course, if you want to keep up on bartending gigs, you can follow the Wellsborn. If you are looking for music, you can search Darwin's Theory. You can search Grave. You can also search just my name. I do have quite a bit posted. Guy Allure, Allore.
Right on. We're gonna have to spell that for people so they understand. Yes, that is his real name, and yes, it is awesome.
My parents wanted me to have a complex.
All right, so the Wellsborn is where you work out of. We're doing the let's see, we got looks like a Tortuga takeover coming on whatever day this is. And then on Monday we've got the Blaze PR team over there. So
yes. I'm digging the new ownership. They really have a fire under their ass on making some much needed changes. I know it's not coming as quickly as the entire world wants it, but big things are coming for us there. Big things.
Right on. Are you there for the Tortuga takeover on Tuesday?
I believe I am, good sir. I believe I am.
Right on. All right. So anybody watching, look for Guy at the Tortuga takeover on Tuesday. God, that's so fun to say. We got a Tortuga Lager and Tortuga IPA coming up, which is very, very tasty stuff. I love. If you want the peanut butter stout, that is everywhere in California because I think they make it in El Segundo. And look for Guy's band Gray. And what was the other one called?
Darwin's Theory.
Darwin's Theory. Pretty easy to remember. Look for those guys around LA. Guy, always a pleasure. We're going to end the broadcast there, but you can follow us on @WolfandLong on Twitter and Instagram. You can follow me at St. Genesius on Twitter and at the Incomparable Josh on Instagram. When I made that handle, I didn't think about how hard it was going to be to actually say. All right, we'll see you guys next Sunday on Get Vocal. Get Vocal's actual broadcasts are on getvocal.com. You can check out their concept, how we differ from all the other live streaming platforms. Pretty amazing stuff. If you want to jump in on one of our broadcasts next Sunday, just come on to getvocal.com, pop in. We'd love to hear from you. All right, see you later, guy.
Peace, bud.
Right on.